expecting from Livingston?
A tough game. I don't think any manager will say anything differently. I think they've got a lot of good players, a lot of good options to choose from, and obviously it's always a tough ask. We have narrowly lost both games against Livingston this season. We lose a 1-0 game down there on a set play, and I thought we were a wee bit young and naive that day, and it was all about trying to be stronger, be a bit more kind of streetwise. And in the game here, we're in a brilliant position. We get ourselves in front and we chuck it away, really, by a couple of individual mistakes. So I think by and large the games have been very tight with them, as I expect. I expect tomorrow to be tight as well, but it's important that, particularly on the road, we have those fine margins, we find ways to win games, and tomorrow gives us another chance at that.
Been quite impressed with them. They've been up at that top end of the table for quite a wee while.
Yeah, but not surprised when you look at the actual, I think when we look at the squads at the start of the season, Livingston had 15, 16 proper Premier League players already in the building. They've recruited well over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and a lot of experience, know-how. So everybody talks about their endeavour and their work rate, but they've got good players as well, and that's been 2 or 3 years building that type of squad. So we want to eventually get to that where we can accumulate so many good players and have that proper squad, and a squad that has got experience but also got the capabilities of getting this club into the top 6. So we're a bit short of that at the minute, as the results show, but we can certainly something that we think that we can get to.
The free agent market, Derek, are you looking?
Yeah, there's plenty of them out there. How many good ones there is, I'm not so sure. But we're looking. There's a lot of work going on. Like I say, we were disappointed with 2 or 3 things at the end. We hit the bar on a couple of occasions, really, to be honest. We thought we had a couple coming in, and unfortunately, unless you've got, as you see even in England and the like, unless you've got an abundance of money to pay over the odds, you'll no get good strikers, or you'll no get good options. A lot of the time it's difficult, January particularly, unless you've got the money to throw at it. So we were probably dependent, which is never a good thing, dependent on others doing their business, which in turn frees up players to maybe become available. So, and we were living in hope rather than any real kind of expectation. Apart from one, we expected one to land for us, and it never happened. So we move on, and we continue to look at the contract market, and there's some good players amongst it, and whether we can maybe tap into that, time will tell. But I'm really pleased with what we have got. You can always look at what you've not got, and I think what we have got in the building, and as seen in the performance of the night, is fantastic togetherness. I think when you reduce the numbers, as we've lost 2 or 3 in this window, and there were a couple going out on loan, what I think you then get is a tighter squad. The numbers have been too big this season, and I think what we will have now is everybody really feeling inclusive, feeling really close to being in the team, and that's the way I want it, really competitive.
Any knocks from the other night?
Well, Ash Taylor came off, but he's fine, thankfully. It was more in precaution, it was more a kind of neuro thing, so thankfully he seems to be okay. Liam Donnelly opened up his knee a wee bit, and he's been scanned, so it might be touch and go for him for tomorrow, but we're hoping it's nothing too serious. With Chris Stokes back in the squad, and we have got Fraser Murray back in the squad, who's had a full week's training. So Chris Stokes back into training yesterday, so both of the lads are added to the squad. The only long-term injuries now that we have are Innes Cameron, as you know, and Jarell Dossett, who will be a wee bit yet.
How did you find that the other night?
Oh, it was a great experience. I'm not really used to playing in front of that many fans, and when you go from 21s, about 20 people there, to how many there was overnight, it was brilliant.
How did you first hear of the booth?
So I was actually in Liverpool after training, and then the head of loans, David Woodvine, pulled me to one side, and he said, "Look, we've got an offer on the cards from Kilmarnock, and the manager wants to have a Zoom call with you." So yeah, it kind of came from there, and I said, if you would have first asked me, I would have gone, "Oh no, I'll stay at 21s." But then I spoke to my dad. Actually, my dad was on board with the whole move, and I look up to him a lot, so I think it was in that kind of. And then I spoke to the gaffer on a Zoom call, and he was like, I felt like he trusted me a lot, and I'd get a lot out of it, and the experience would be great. And after that Zoom call, I was my head was fully on coming here. So that was all it came about.
Must have, I was going to say, you must have liked what Derek had to say.
Yeah, 100%. When I was on the Zoom call, he was just like what I said before, like filling me with a lot of confidence, and I kind of found that like he trusted me a lot before I'd even come through the door, and he'd watched a lot of my games and knew what I was about, and like the formation suits me, and like they play quite a lot of counter-attacking football, which suits my game a lot because I like to like push on, and also they're a really good defensive team, which would help like develop my game as well.
Why were you initially reluctant?
You know what it was? It was a bit like I had to stay in my comfort zone a little bit, because like when you're a young lad at like a 21s team, it was like my first 21 season, so I'd done 6 months of it, and I don't know, I didn't really like open my mind up to a loan yet, but like when this came about and what they had to say, and yeah, I think it was a no-brainer in the end.